Hello, friends, and do we have a loaded topic for today's episode? And that is baby sleeping. I know firsthand this is an extremely stressful, confusing, and talked about topic within parenting. So I am amped to have Ann Marks, the founder of the Full Feedings Method, into the tent today. She talks to us about her background, her family, why she started this program, and how that is helping parents navigate sleeping with their babies and their toddlers. I've been using Ann's program since Ronan was 13 weeks, I believe, and I wish I had found her sooner. I went into parenting thinking that cry it out was what you had to do, and that gave me a lot of anxiety. Even just thinking about that, we are not cry it out people. It was not for us. And I was so happy when I found Ann and her guides and her program to help Ronan cultivate sleeping patterns that work with him and not against him. Ann is one of the most wonderful people. She is such a bright and shiny soul. She is beautiful inside and out. And I am just absolutely honored we got to sit down and chat about something that has helped our family tenfold, and I know will help many, many other families as well. So let's get into it. Hi, hello, hey, and welcome to my tent, a place to hear life experiences, different opinions, a range of journeys, and a viewpoint different than our own. A place to challenge our own thoughts, a space to learn a little bit, and I promise some fun along the way. I believe we're better when we let a range of people into our tents, so welcome to mine. Alrighty, friends. Hello. Welcome back to the tent. I have an episode today that many of you have been requesting, as it's a highly coveted and stressful topic for a lot of parents, and that's babies sleeping. So I have Ann Marks on today, the founder of Full Feedings, and she's going to talk to us about her program, which has personally saved my family's life. So I am a success story in itself, but we're going to get to chat with her all about her program and how she is helping families get the gift of sleep, even as new parents. So Ann, want to give a little intro to yourself?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I'm Ann. I'm a single mom of 3. I have a daughter, Frankie, who is about 7 years old, 7.5, she'll tell you. And my twin sons, which I can't even believe, are going to be 5.
Oh my gosh.
So it went so fast. And I'm from, I guess I love this. I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania originally, and I moved to New York in 2005. I worked, modeling, acting, did that whole thing, met my now ex-husband and, had a great relationship, 10 years, not that great apparently, but no. Yeah. We'll keep that
That's
real.
A different podcast.
Yeah, that's probably a different story. So no, but it's all good. So we moved to outside the city when we had our daughter. And so I kind of transitioned, a lot of what I did transitioning from that world in New York, fashion and film and TV. When I had my daughter, which I know so many people can relate to, I was I don't want to leave her. I don't want to go film something for 3 weeks or even be away from her all day. So it's really kind of a classic story because I just was what do I love to do? And what am I good at? And I loved sleep before I had kids. I was really passionate about it once I had my daughter. And I always thought I would have been a cried out mom because I'm very A-type and rigid. And I was not. As soon as my little baby came, I was no way. So I really didn't find what I was looking for in the sleep space for babies that felt, still had a structure and was effective. I knew I didn't want to co-sleep or do any of those things. No judgment if you do. And so I had an amazing doula who was you need to share this with people. And I remember after my twins were born and I knew my marriage was kind of falling apart. The twins probably pushed us right over the edge. And I was
I
like,
can't even imagine. I only have one and I can't even do that. So
it was a lot. Like, I don't even know if he had wanted a second. And so I was like, there's two of them.
You're like, surprise, you're not getting a second, you're getting a third.
Yeah, it's a lot. It was a lot going on. So I just decided to start full feedings. And I really found a passion for helping other parents sleep, because it's something I have no idea how anyone functions without sleep. It boggles my mind. I know who I turn into when I am sleep deprived is not a pretty person. So I set out to really, like, I started with friends and family and people anyone that was having a baby. I was like, just listen to me, just do it this way. And so it really was like kind of the American dream that I just started. And it's grown into something that I honestly still sometimes am taken back by. And I can get into more of my real story, like the period of time when I built this was also a very difficult time for me in my own personal life, not just the divorce, but both of my parents passed away. And so it just gave me such a purpose to wake up every day. And so many people are like, thank you so much. And I'm like, no, you have no idea that this really gave me something to put my energy into while I was going through a really difficult time in my own life.
Yeah. And connecting something that you liked and that you were good at, and you're building this. And the one thing I found when I had my son was the amount of stress I felt on when should he be sleeping? When should he be eating? What do I need to be doing? And what I found was these Facebook groups that I had no business being in these Facebook groups a week postpartum, where these people were typing, my baby has been crying for 2 hours. Tell me to stay strong. I'm like, is this my future? Am I going to have to listen to my child wail? I had no idea what to do. I'm a first-time parent. I was really, really overwhelmed. And I wish I had found you sooner. I think I found you at the 10-week mark, and we had just been going out on our own. We really had no idea what to do. So in terms of your program and your structure, what are some of the ways that you're guiding parents, and what is the progression? I mean, I've gone through it, so I know, but how are you setting this up from birth through infancy? And then there's also a toddler program. So how's that all working?
So first, just to touch on what you said, like, that's kind of what I found was there was like no manual. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what is a routine supposed to look like? Could you just tell me? Not a schedule, because like there was rigid schedules out there, but
babies aren't robots.
Right. So I was like, there's no way. Like, I remember reading a book that was like, it's 7 a.m. start of day. And I'm like, okay, well, if my kid gets up at 6 and they're hungry, I'm feeding the baby and I'm going to start my day. Yeah. So just like that, really, I felt like, I wanted to give parents something to kind of follow that was, my doula, I remember her being like, write a book. And I'm like, no one's reading a book. Like, my kids sleep all night and I don't read books, really. I'm struggling to, I sit down to read and I'm just like falling asleep. So I wanted to create something because I felt like it was so simple for me to understand what to do, which I do believe is a little bit intuitive from a higher power. I have no idea why I know this. For me to give that and share that in a way that was digestible, that a parent could say, I'm not overwhelmed. Like, I'm not reading an 80-page PDF. I'm not doing it because I'm not going to absorb anything. So I really, when I started consulting, I was like, I'm saying the same things, this thing, this thing, this thing. And that became my method, which I was like, I'm telling, and then within that, just saying like, here are guides with, each month, like based on biology, really, like how long a baby, should be awake and how much they can sleep during the day. And then how much they should be eating based on like general accepted norms. And I put that all together in a guide that I was like, holy, and then still to this day, sometimes I'm like, holy shit, this works. Like, I'm not even kidding. Yes. People are like, no. It was like to the day, like that you said, like 13 weeks, like this happened. And I was like, yeah, like it's great. It's wild to me. So I did that. Like my originally just started my infant program with the method. And like, I actually had the guides and then I had like a 14-page PDF of other ingredients, which then COVID hit. I launched my program literally the day we went into lockdown, the online program. I had been consulting before that. Over the course of COVID, I did email support for free, which was like absolute insanity. Wow. But it gave me the ability to see what parents needed to then build this other ingredients section to say, here's digestible information. Here's practical things to do. Like, here's how you handle the 6 a.m. start of day. And here's how you handle that period between the end of the last nap and bedtime where like no parent knows what to do because you're either keeping them awake too long or they're going to bed too early. All that was like, here are the other ingredients, which is really my tagline, full feedings and other ingredients for infant sleep. Here is all of that in a searchable section of a program that it's like PDFs and short videos. Which I'm looking into actually doing AI to kind of like have it point parents to like the right stuff. Oh, I know. Yeah. I shouldn't be saying that publicly.
AI is big in my world.
I know, but see, I don't love AI because I'm like, I like that it's personalized, but I do think AI for people to like, hey, this is my problem. And it's like, here's the content because there's so much in the infant program now that sometimes I feel like it gets missed. My original infant program did what was just my online program had toddler, but then I started the same thing. I was like, well, I'm saying the same thing for toddlers. So I created a method for that to help parents keep their sleep, through while their babies or their toddlers are still napping. And so then I did the same thing. I have short videos, guides, and then I created another ingredient section, which is only PDFs for the toddler, just common problems. My baby doesn't want to take their second nap or they're fighting bedtime, the things that always are happening. I mean, one of my biggest challenges is changing the idea around sleep. So people don't even think it's possible. And I want them to understand that, no, I have 5-week-old babies that do this naturally, 5 weeks that sleep from bedtime through a dream feed to the morning without doing anything besides just aligning biologically to meet their needs in the daytime. And it's like, that is what I hope becomes the norm for parents around the world, because sleep is a basic human need. And the fact that millions of parents are just not doing anything about it, or they think they can't do anything about it, or they think they have to wait until like to sleep train. Like, I don't consider what I do to be sleep training. It's a way of life.
Yeah. Programming.
Well, you just choose to live this way. You choose to, pay attention to what they're eating, pay attention to how long they're awake, pay attention to how long they're sleeping. And it just becomes the norm because the benefit of that far exceeds anything else. Like, you get sleep and you keep it as long as you're kind of staying on top of those like biological changes.
With, the program, I also like that there's flexibility because you even note within your guides the general wake window could be between X and Y. It's not usually a huge window, but I found my son typically lean towards the later end of it. So there's some trial and error with it, but there's enough flexibility. And with some of these other programs, it was like your baby needs to sleep from 9 to 10 a.m. I'm like, what if he takes a 26-minute nap?
I know.
Then what? Yeah. He's not a robot. I don't really know what to do here. And in the feedings portion of it, I know that you really focus on, as they're growing through infancy all the way up until toddler, getting the nutrition in during the day. Can you touch on how that piece connects into nighttime sleep?
Yes, I love this. And I'm learning so much more because I like want to go to school to be like a neurobiologist now, because I'm like, wait a minute, it's biological. So, logically, it makes sense that if they're getting enough during the day, like biologically, we're supposed to sleep. We're humans. Everyone needs to sleep to rejuvenate. So people often come at me, where's the science? And I'm like, I don't think I need to provide science for why sleep is necessary. But having said that,
do you sleep?
Yeah. I'm like, some people don't. So going into it, I believe that at night, babies are eating around the clock from birth because their stomach is not large enough to consume enough to hold them overnight. So we're feeding fully and frequently. And as they get bigger, their stomach gets bigger, they can have a little bit more. That's why we kind of maintain those full feeds, that by the time they're around 8 to 12 weeks old, they can consume enough in the daytime hours, an average size baby, to not have to eat at night. Now, we don't withhold food at night to force sleep, but I don't think it's ironic that biologically science tells us that circadian rhythm can kind of be set around the same time. So what we're doing And science also tells us that the absence of food helps to set circadian rhythm. So as we're kind of expanding this time at night between feeds, it's helping because we're seeing the sun and we're waking up and we're doing this every day and we're consolidating those feeds to the daytime. So our body is going, I know what to do. And then that is how it happens naturally, because it just aligns from birth, in my opinion, with biology. Even when they still need to eat at night, we're aligning that every single day. And that's really what I believe my method and program does, is helps parents to do that, so that the body can then, and nature can take over and say, this is what we're doing based on the sun and, you know, what our evolution as people is.
Yeah. I mean, I've woken up hungry in the middle of the night before and had to eat a snack.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
That was also when I was heavily pregnant. So there may have been a few things happening there, but
yeah. And then, so what can happen though, is that if you are eating in the night, it can mess with your circadian rhythm and your sleep. So like if you were consistently getting up in the middle of the night, your body is they actually use food, and there's some other forms, exercise, things like that, that can be used to help like people who travel time zones to reset their clock and their body clock of what's going on biologically. So we're working to make sure that the needs are met during the day. If we need to, we can then work to extend time at night between feeds, like with support and help. But usually when the needs are met during the day, the body takes over and they just naturally sleep, which is amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, I've watched this happen in real time with my son. And I also really appreciate your program because, like I said, when I was looking at these Facebook groups, anyone listening, do not go in the Facebook groups. Don't do it. They're terrifying. But I felt like the only option was going to be cried out. And then I'm researching that, and I'm also wondering, okay, are they going to have a negative association with their bedroom and with their bed? Is it going to stress them out even more because they have been taught that I won't respond to them? When I have met them, you know, I met his needs during the day. Also, my son's a tank, so he always ate a little bit more even than the guide.
Yeah, which no, my kids did too.
Which is fine. There's wiggle room within that, but I feel like he gets into his room and he's like, lady, put me down. I want to go to bed. Goodbye. Loves his bed, wakes up in the morning, babbling until I come and get him, because I feel like I've associated that with a safe space, because he knows that during the day he's going to be supported. And there are times at night he wakes up still. He's a baby, you know, things are going to happen. He got 6 teeth at once, which was an interesting time, but then going to that section.
My son Teddy did that too. He would have more, like, usually it's not so like teething doesn't usually disrupt like that, except unless you're getting like my Teddy got like 4 at a time. And I'm like, oh, this is an extended.
Yeah. And it really wasn't even too long, or if he's sick or whatnot. There's been times.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's what people I think are like when I say, I'm like, no, that's normal. Like what I'm talking about when I say they don't wake at night is like, we're not having extended things where we're up for 3 hours in the middle of the night. My son, Tommy, one of my twins, if he stayed awake 15 minutes too long and got overtired, like if I missed something or whatever, there's twins, he would wake in the middle of the night, and I knew his needs were met. So all I did was support him back to sleep, but it would take me an hour and a half. And that's biological too. His cortisol is elevated. He's having trouble regulating himself. And even with help, they struggle to regulate themselves. So I would know this is why cry it out to me. I don't like it, because I'm like, it's my fault. I missed bedtime. I did. His biology, his, melatonin release happened and he wasn't sleeping. And so now he goes to sleep finally. And then he wakes up in the night because he's kind of a little bit out of whack. And I need to help him. And I would, and it would take me an hour. And I knew it. If Tommy woke up in the middle of the night, I was going to be up for an hour and a half. I would go in, rock him, lay him down. He'd be quiet. 15 minutes later, he'd say mom. Now he's like mom or whatever. And I go in and help him. And I'm a big fan of that. Like cry it out is not necessarily a bad thing. I think that when needs are met, it sits better with me, because we are not, we know that needs are met. And if you do that, like I have stuff in my program that if parents choose to do that, to support them through that, it should be a very isolated thing. It's going to be 3 days. Don't do it at nap time because they'll just go insane. But you go through it. But the reason that I don't love when people do it, or like some other programs out there, is because no one is asking, like, what does it do to a child if their needs are not met, or if they're cortisol is elevated and you let them cry it out, what does that do to their body? We don't know. Like, it's a rhetorical question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to take that risk really with my children. That's what sat with me. And that's really, and there is evidence, like Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry have a book on trauma. There is evidence to support that when needs are not met and they experience in these first like 2 months of life, if needs are not met and there is micro traumas, things like that, crying thing, that can actually impact them more than some larger traumas like later in their life.
Yeah.
So I think what you were saying,
or I read something recently where they don't fall asleep after crying that long because they're tired. They fall asleep because they gave up, and they're being taught that you won't respond to them. And I don't know. That was just not something I was aligned with. And I was really anxious that I was going to have to, because also I feel like that's the message to new moms. It's like, oh, just let them cry. And I'm like, really?
Oh, the pediatricians say it. Wait, the pediatricians literally get about like 1 or 2 days of training on sleep. And most of them will say, just let your baby cry. And I'm like, well, what if they're hungry? Because even that, like at a thing like this, I'm like, if there's a baby that's right over the age of 8 to 12 weeks old and they're still eating food at night, my opinion is that's their baseline of full, right? So whatever that is, you got to feed that to them in the day. If you think you're going to just drop those feeds, which is what the people often say, I'm like, well, where are those calories going? They have to be moved somewhere else in order to.
That's your milk management, right? Where you're.
Yes, I love my milk management.
Yes, I literally have lived this.
Because I'm like, it makes I feel like I live in a logical. I'm like, this is just logic, but I guess it's not. It's logic to me. So I'm like, no, we're not just going to get rid of that milk. And new parents, the other reason I wanted to create this program, you're in that fog. I'm still in the fog. My kids are like, I'm like, where am I? What am I doing? Sometimes I always tell this story because I always want to make parents feel better. My daughter was born and I had the baby car seat. And I remember I posted a picture of her and a girlfriend of mine from like childhood messages me. And she goes, Anne, the headrest moves. The headrest was literally like a foot above her head. And I'm thinking, what a rookie mom mistake that I just, you just feel stupid, because I was like, oh my gosh, I've been driving around in my car and her head's not even remotely protected by this car seat. But I was in such a fog, even sleeping, that I still missed it. So that's also why I wanted to make this like so digestible for parents, just now spreading the sleep, as I call it. Cause I'm like, no, it's possible. Please believe me.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Part of it, I think, and I don't know if you have like feelings on this either way, but I've supported Ronan through his sleep and fulfilling his needs. My kid's also real chill. My kid is his father's son. I'm a crazy person. My husband, on the best day of his life and the worst day of his life, is the most even keeled. And Ronan's pretty chill. So there's a little bit of nature versus nurture. I think that he's a kid who just likes also sleeping, and we're blessed with that. But for me, it was really around the routine behind it. And he changed so fast. They changed so fast in that first year. Some of the guides, they're usually 4 weeks.
Yeah, like 4.5.
4.5 week increments, because even adding that little 5 minute extra to the window and 5 minutes more and 5 minutes more, you're just gradually getting them to a place where it's basically based on their clock. And it was wild to see where I'm like, well, he doesn't look tired, but this seems to be when the wake window, and I would put him down and he'd be like, toodaloo, and go to sleep. I was like, this is crazy. And now overnight, except for the minor disruptions here and there as they come, he's pretty good. But the other week, he had 3 days in a row, he had a 5 a.m. wake. And I figured out.
And you're going to tell me why. Did you figure it out?
Slept too long during the day. Because I had forgotten, and he took a 2-hour nap and then another one.
I tell you, people are like, it's not this simple. I'm like, it is this simple. And it's literally, if you can look at adults too. So I hurt my back last week and they gave me a muscle relaxer, which I don't drink or do anything. So I was like, oh, I'm nervous to take this. So I was in so much pain on Sunday. So I was like, I'm going to just take this during the day. I took a 2.5 hour nap. I can't even tell you the last time I took a 2.5 hour nap. And then I struggled to go to bed. And it's relative to, there are general accepted norms. It's relative to the person though. And some people could sleep too much today and still go to bed tonight, but then tomorrow it affects them tomorrow.
Yep.
Maybe they wake up at 5. So you have like, it's a variation of human behavior that's what we're looking for. And that's what I'm hoping also to teach parents is like, I want to give you parents this and like, just go enjoy your life. Like, I don't want parents. I love when people can't, I celebrate cancellations all day long.
I know you.
So does my team.
Them. Yeah.
Because it means that they're sleeping and they're getting back to their lives and enjoying their child. I mean, it's hard in the first year of baby to really truly, even when they're sleeping, to really truly enjoy it because you're just in it. You're learning all these new things. Sleep helps. Sleep helps with anxiety. Sleep helps with depression. Sleep helps with your lactation. Sleep helps with literally everything. And the fact that it's not prioritized in parenthood. And it's almost honestly like people shun you. They look at you like you let your kid cry it out. If you're like, no, he sleeps. And they're like, oh, really? And you're like, no, it's super gentle and supported. I didn't compromise him in any way. That's the part that I want to change. And I hope that in a few years' time, as this really starts to spread, that it becomes the norm from birth. Like, here's full feedings from the hospital, like take it, go. And everyone's going to be sleeping and back to work. I mean, you don't even get me started on like maternity, paternity leave.
A huge one. I knew I had to go back to work.
Yeah.
And I also, am no foe to insomnia. I have had insomnia for a lot of my life, but I knew that I had to be able to at least get enough to function. And I feel like you're also taught there's narrative in the parenting world of like, when you're pregnant, I got the sleep now because you'll never sleep again, or just that kind of stuff where you're starting to be conditioned to think, okay, maybe I just deserve this for having a kid. Like maybe I just deserve to be sleep deprived now forever.
No, they make parents think that that's so. I actually wrote a talk that I hope will become a TED Talk one day.
It will.
I'm ready. And it literally talks about that, how it's glorified. Like there's memes that it's almost like it's like this rite of passage and listen, the first 8 weeks are intense. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pretty tough. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, the sleep deprivation really gets to you, but it's like, almost like people don't even believe it's possible because they haven't seen it. I'm like, I just need a few more years of it spreading to like people to be like, no, it's totally possible to not have this, she who gives herself the most is the best mother or the most loving mother. It's like, no, we need to really prioritize like maternal, paternal mental health. And, a large part of that to me is sleep.
It's when you recover. So I mean, even when Ronan's not feeling well, for me, where I'm happy that we've implemented this is, of course, he's brought home a different disease every 5 minutes from daycare. But
so you pay for when they go to daycare.
Yeah, overnight sleep is when he's recovering and resting and actually healing.
Oh, I posted a reel once that I had to take down. It was because it was about when they're sick, and it just came across the wrong way. And I'm like, listen, consistent and frequent daytime sleep is like my standard. I think people took it as I was saying, don't let them rest during the day. But my point was, we still really need to be generally following the principles in the day, because the nighttime sleep to me is more restorative and it will help them heal faster. And I prioritize that nighttime sleep for myself and for my children when they are not feeling well. Of course, if they're not feeling well, I'll let my kids sleep a little bit longer, but I got like so far. They're like, what? I'm like, no, I didn't mean that. I meant like we just, yes. Yeah. But like, that's the standard, is that you're getting adequate sleep during the day. We just don't want to let them go too much longer, because then you will, like you said, when you said Ronan was waking at 5, it's just like, here's what happened today and that affects tonight. And you're like, I'm going to make a change real quick.
It's empowering to be able to look at either the day or the week that you've been having and try to pinpoint, because I feel like a lot of parents feel lost. And they're like, I don't even know how to fix this. But for me, I was like, all right, let me sit down and look at the log thing and figure out when he was sleeping. And then I was like, there it is. He slept for almost double the amount of time that he was supposed to. And that's why he woke up at 5 a.m.
But I think it's so empowering to give parents that and I always say this, like, I want parents to feel confident in their decision making at night. So like, let's say Ronan was a little bit younger and he was drinking much more milk, and all of a sudden you have that day, right? And he wakes at, let's say he would wake at night, but he just woke at 5 a.m. But let's say he had actually woke up at 1 a.m. You're not sitting there going, is he hungry? Is he tired? What is it? No, you're like, I let him sleep too long. And that gives you the confidence to make decisions and know that you're not compromising your child in any way. And that was like invaluable to me as a parent, because there really isn't a way to communicate with them. Cues and they're not as reliable. Being able to kind of have something as a baseline to say, oh, I know why that happened. It just felt really good. Like, I thought I would have been a really not great mom. I laughed. Well, I wasn't the person that loved children. I never changed a diaper until I had my daughter. I'm not going to front, not the person that's like, come on. I mean, I can be motherly to other people's children, but I'm not the first one to volunteer for that.
No, not a PTA mom.
I mean, I volunteer at school, but I'm like, did you just sneeze? I'm like funny. And so, but it really gave me this confidence in parenthood. That really was huge. And it's something that I love being able to help parents kind of feel empowered in those decision making and ability to problem solve their own sleep problems.
Yeah, because they're all going to be unique. What was funny was my mom tried to tell me that I slept through the night at like 10 weeks or something.
Wait, stop. My mom said 2 weeks. And I just had this conversation with a friend.
We go back through the baby book. And I'm like, Mom, here I am at 9 months old, still waking up at night. She was like, oh, I guess I just forgot. I'm like, yeah, well, it was 34 years ago, but.
Well, my mom's passed away, so I can't even like give her shit about this. But I'm like, she would say that my brother and I slept through the night at 2 weeks, that we slept 2-hour naps all day long. And I'm like, no, we did not. There is no way. But my baby book says it. I'm like, Mom, my baby book actually says that I slept through it 2.5 weeks. I'm like, I think that you were like lying, Mom. I don't know. I
don't think that's right. Yeah. But
I don't know.
Everyone's going to have their own unique challenges, but you mentioned that your TED Talk, that will happen. We're going to manifest that.
We're manifesting that. Yes.
And as you're spreading this, like, what is some of the actual business aspects of this look like for you? Because you mentioned the day that COVID lockdown started, you launched your app. Has this been sort of, I know you're expanding in your team, but starting as like a one-woman operation, what does the business side of this look like?
Running a business is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It's also the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my entire life. But I do not have a co-founder, which I have spoke with many people in business who say that not having a co-founder is a mistake. I didn't really set out. I didn't know, meaning like to have someone to have half of the responsibility. I mean, it's not a mistake, but it's easier when you have a co-founder. I kind of joke that I built my business in 20-minute increments, like between nap time, because when I first started, I didn't have enough money to like have a nanny, or I was also going through divorce, when I was really starting to say, I got to figure out how to like make something here that I can like support myself with. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is intense. But I just really, I'm an A-type person. So I'm super driven, and I probably have ADHD since having children, because I feel like I'm constantly like being pulled in 18 directions, but I'm also very goal oriented and able to like stay on task. And so for me, it was just doing what I could when I could, and that had to be enough. And it's triggering though, because I have all my parenthood kind of also brought out all those things in me. Like, I'm a perfectionist and I'm a this, and like running a business, it never usually goes the way you want it to. And like in the middle of the day, you're having to call the tax thing, and like you got to register this thing. There's a lot of other aspects that go into a business. And then also, in addition to actually having a business, I have to like content create full time, which is a lot. It's putting out content that is relative to help parents, to know that this even exists. So it's a lot some days. And there's times where, I have a wonderful woman who mentors me. And I remember at Christmas, I was just like so down, like I was just exhausted. And she just looks at me and goes, you need a break. And I just like burst into tears, because this is my fourth child, this business. And I care about it so much. I take personally when people don't have a good experience, like that stuff sits with me. So like my brain never shuts off. And so that can feel, I've had to learn how to, when I get people come at me all the time, it's just life. Like, I deal with postpartum sleep deprived parents, and when they're not happy, it's a whole thing. So I'm like, but I've had to develop my own way of protecting my energy and knowing that I genuinely care. I'm not some like, I've had people call me like a dirt bag because I like sleep. Oh yeah. Like crazy stuff where you're like, oh my gosh, like I love my children more than anything. I would never compromise any, so that kind of stuff has been like, you have to really get right with yourself and also just know that like, I know I'm putting good out into the world. I don't want to focus on the stuff that isn't great. And then I just do as much as I can every day. And, that's it. It's been helpful for me to have like quarterly goals. Like that stuff is really like the stuff they always tell you, like, here's my quarterly goals. Here are my yearly goals. Here are my monthly goals. And then really trying to hold myself accountable to those. Bringing in a team has also been, so in addition to like having a business, content creating, doing all the things, I also have to manage 3 other people within the structure of my business. And they're amazing. I hired really well. I'm like, yay for me. I feel like my team is awesome. And
that's that's your tent though. Those are the people that you bring in because you don't know how to do it all.
Yes. And so they have been great and, just a lot of good things. But again, it's like being a boss and like you have to payroll. Like those are things people don't. I'm like, and I always say with businesses, I have to learn like almost a new task like every day, like hard things. And I have a great web guy, shout out to Kevin, who like always is like, I'm like, Kevin, I don't know what to do. The thing, for web stuff and like technical stuff, because that stuff before, I was working with someone, it's like something goes wrong and that's your whole focus. So your whole day plan of like, this is what I was going to work on today gets shifted. And you're like, I have to fix this problem now because this isn't working. That stuff is like, as a business owner has been challenging. But again, I don't have a boss. It's like the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Like helping families to sleep gives to me in a way that like I could never even express. Like it's like I'm so fulfilled. So that's what keeps me going on my days where I'm like, I want to quit. I just want to lay down and not do this anymore. Yes. Yeah, I think everyone goes through that. Like even people that I know that have like, you have to take care of, you have to pace yourself, take care of, mental, physical health. And sleep. And sleep helps. Totally.
It sure does. And your program too, I know that there's some aspects of it. There's different types of tiers, but pricing is a big thing for you and making it accessible is a big thing for you. So can you talk about the price points and stuff of your programs and how that factors in?
Yeah. So for me, I wanted this to be affordable. Mm-hmm. I think the people that need sleep, we all need sleep, but the people who need sleep the most are the people working 3 jobs to take care of their family. And those people most people can't afford private consulting, and private consulting in the sleep world is, my private prices, they're about to increase, but they're high. We also went through a pandemic. So I think even if there was a case where I was like, oh, I charge a little bit more, like people need that. Like people, especially when they don't know if it's going to work. You don't want to go and spend $500 on something that, what a stressful time, even if you have the means and you have a child, like children are expensive. So it's like to go in that period of life. I just really wanted it to be affordable because it's a basic human need. Like why you can get water. Well, most people can get water out of their faucet here. Why should we be gouging people for sleep? There's 130 million babies born worldwide every year. Like I'm good. Like I don't need to like gouge people for this. But it was just really important for that. And I gift, people come to me with like financial, I love to just be like, can I just gift it to you? You know what I mean? Here, let me refund all your money. And it's just, I can't imagine having a stress of money and then not sleeping. So those things really, I wanted to like merge together.
Yeah, because it's a monthly, and then I know that there's tiers because I have the email support. And I'm always like, and help.
I know.
Because you do it on a monthly basis. So a lot of these other programs that I was looking at, it would be like $600 for the full, ages 1 to 7. I'm like, who has $600 lying around? So you have the monthly subscription, and then there's also additional support, which is really helpful if someone is needing some questions or even wants to book a one-on-one with you, which would be more of a private consulting rate. But the base price is incredible. I mean, for what you
well,
get.
$9 a month. So that was another. So when I first started, I was like, I'm going to charge a flat fee, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, I'll do financing options so people can afford this. And I'm like, no. And my instinct really, so Melissa Wood is one of my closest friends. I don't know if anyone doesn't know Melissa Wood Health.
Yeah, I don't know who doesn't really know her.
I know. She's like blowing up. She's the best. I've known her forever. She's like so kind. And she really, to me, was instrumental in like kind of saying like that subscription based is like, it makes it affordable for people. Like, it's like, maybe you like, there are people that that have to think about $9.99 a month. That's a reality. Like that's the majority of the world. So that made it, because I get people all the time that they're like, well, you just want to like take advantage of people. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I want to make this affordable. And I think it also for what I do, because I'm like, I'm not dripping content. Like, you get it all. Like, here's all the information and you have access to it. It's not intended to be downloaded. You know, it's you access it here. But for me, it also kind of like the 3 months, like I do have a 3-month minimum, but that kind of also helped people to like stick with it. Sometimes it can take time or to really kind of absorb all of that and see what's going on. Like, I thought that having a $9.99 a month as a base level program made it obviously affordable, but also it kind of helped people to be accountable to it. That it was like, we're going to work at this for a little bit. Cause I get people that like try it for a week and they're like, it doesn't work. And I'm like, I wish for everyone that it would change overnight, but sometimes that doesn't happen. So, and then, the phone and email support, just to really give, I mean, my goal is to make it so that the program works at the $9.99 price point all day long so that people don't need that support, but some people do. And so we have those options for still affordable.
Yeah. But think about it. I mean, these little tiny humans have been here my son's been here for 11 months. So even when he was having those 5 a.m. wakes, I knew it was probably going to be a couple days of us getting back into a routine and back into a jive. I will say he's still an early morning kind of guy. I think he's like a 6:15er, and
it's all right. Some kids do. I mean, the thing with the sun, like
this, that's usually what we get out of him, but, which is totally fine because he's been asleep for 11 hours.
Right.
But I knew it was going to be a couple of days. And what I really appreciate about you is it's working with your baby and not against them. So giving parents the decision to also do some trial and error, which we had to do a lot of. I was like, why is my son eating so much? But he's still only like 40% in weight. So making those little trial and errors, and it's going to take time. It's going to take more than a week or even 2. So,
well, sometimes that's biological as well. So like I always use the example of changing time zones to change biological systems. Like I just read a statistic that it takes 1 day per hour of a time change. So like if you're traveling 5 hours ahead, it's going to take 5 days to get on that time. And so why would it be any different when we are working to change biological processes that control wakefulness and sleep? It's going to be the same. So it's like, that's what I'm hoping. I mean, I really want to get, and I was going to tell you for your sleep, if you don't follow Andrew Huberman, like you need to.
I know. I messaged you and I was like, can you make a sleep program for adults?
So I started, and I was turned on to him just through my own, because I was looking to kind of same thing. Like I was like, why am I not falling asleep easily? And I have other things that were going on in my life, but he gives like really simple protocols to follow that align biologically, like delaying your caffeine intake 90 to 120. But it's hard, so hard to do that. But it allows your body to like burn off your adenosine. So there's like, he gives you the reason behind all of it. And then it helps you to release your melatonin based on when you're waking, when you have your cortisol release. And it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. And now I like lay my head down on my pillow and I just go to sleep. If you happen for yourself, definitely look into his stuff.
I need to get back into acupuncture because that's been really helpful for me as well. But I mean, everyone, including babies, and how parents parent their children, we've gotten so far away from primal instincts and like primal ways of living, which is rhythms and body. Like we've moved away from that because I think a lot of people want their kids to be robots. And they're like, for a while when I didn't have you, I was like, why isn't my kid sleeping from 9 to 10 like this program says? I'm like, because he's a person, Sarah, because he's a human. That's not going to follow.
I know it's hard.
but it's been.
But they still like, some people like they're like crib hour. And I'm like, I don't understand crib hour, because if the baby's awake, like they're awake. I get the process behind it. I feel like full feedings works with nature and with biology to be flexible. Like the flexibility piece to me, which most people think you can't have sleep and be flexible. But like, I'm like, no, you need to be flexible to get the sleep, because some days your baby wakes at 6, some days your baby wakes at 6:15, some days at 6:45. We need to be flexible within a routine so that we can constantly meet their needs, make sure we're kind of keeping the same, routine within a boundary, to then keep that sleep at night and not fight against her. Like, I think most parents don't know that they're doing this, but they're making decisions that actually just get in the way of nature for their baby. And I'm like, let me help you. Yeah. I mean, I think it's because there's so much out there. And when you don't know, like before now you can problem solve. But again, like I said in the beginning, it's like when the baby wakes at night and you're not paying attention to what's going on during the day, you're sitting there going, are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you this? Why are you awake? I don't even care. Just go back to bed. Here's some food. And then the food, maybe they don't need it. Maybe they do, but you have to pay attention to all that. Yeah. And it's exhausting. Like, I don't claim that, like I say, it's easy, but that doesn't mean it's not like difficult. Like it's easy to do, but it's in practice. It's challenging. Like and I always say, short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yes.
Or if you want to take short-term gains, which is like sleeping in, feeding back to sleep at night so that you're up for a little bit less time. Those short-term gains are going to cause long-term pain, because it will really make it difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it will really make it difficult to get that sleep.
That's been my whole thing, like setting him up for success for whatever comes our way. And it's temporary. I know, like I heard this over and over and over again when I was a new mom, like everything is temporary. Like, I know it's really hard to either like live by their nap schedules, and it's so hard to feel trapped in your house. And now that he's almost a year, I'm like, oh my God, it's easy to leave the house now. It's not like as big of a production as it was. So it gets better. I promise, if anyone's listening.
It does. I would say, like, I have a friend who we literally joke. I have a friend who's a twin, and we always joke with my twins. I'm like, no, every 6 months it gets like easier. And she's like, you say that every 6 months. I'm like, no, because it really does. Like, I can leave my house with not even like a water bottle. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know what that is, because for 7.5 years, I've been like living in this grind. So it gets easier. I probably didn't enjoy it as much as you do. You go in hindsight, you're like, oh, why didn't I enjoy that more?
I sometimes spend my time wishing the time away. And then I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed that time period. And I remember distinctly the days where I was like wishing it to go.
Also, I read this other statistic from birth until like 18, when we hope they all flee the nest, that the time after that, if you combined it all, like where you had Sunday dinners and weekends and whatever, would actually only equal 1 year of time, is like so profound. Like, you're like, oh my God. So that means that this time from like birth until really like 18, this is it. That's the time. And it's so hard. Like, we just had the longest flu season. I mean,
yeah, you guys got nailed, right?
As many. Oh, and let me just tell you, not really, like no one ever at the same time, it just never stopped, including myself. And just when you were like, oh, we're done. And right now we're dealing with like hand, foot, and mouth, and my daughter has impetigo, and like, oh,
that's the worst one.
Luckily, it's kind of mild because we have had it before. But you just go through, and it's like in those moments, I think I posted something like, I was literally in the winter. I was like my son, literally, I had already been at the end of my rope, and my son was like, Mom. And I walk up the stairs and I smell puke, and I'm like, damn it. And I just go in, and I just remember being like, I don't even have anything left to give. Like, I do not know how. And I just remember opening my arms and just being like, please help me. And the thing that came over me was, there are so many people that can't conceive or lost a child. These people would give anything to be cleaning up the puke of a child. And like, it sounds so cliche, but it really helped me to like get through that. I just do my best every day to try to have the moments, I still lose my shit. I'm like,
who doesn't though? If someone says they don't, they're lying.
I'm like, there's no way. It's just stressful.
And you have 3 of them.
We work as a little team though. They're like my little buddies. And I think being a single mom, like they also, understand it. Like my kids are very empathetic. So they know, like my daughter, the one that I came down and there was like trash bags sitting by my back door. And I was like, babe, what's this? She's like, oh, I just thought I'd get the trash together to take it out. And they like weren't even full. I know. She's like my little love. I was like, oh, babe, we stick together and help each. And they fight like cats and dogs too. But like, we really are a little.
Yes, I did with my siblings. What do they think you do? Like if you were to ask your kid, like, what does mom do for work? What would they say?
Oh, Frankie knows I do full feedings. Yeah. She says she's going to run it. And she argues with her brothers all the time. She's like, I'm in charge of full feedings when we're older. I'm like, oh, I'm probably going to sell long before that big, but they know that I help parents sleep. And my boys are like just getting to an age where they understand. They'll ask questions and stuff like that. I mean, they think I just work at my computer. I'm like, what does your mom do? She sits at her desk. I'm like, okay.
Oh, those like the Mother's Day things where the kids fill them out. It's like my mom, my sister-in-law, her daughter wrote like, my mom's name is Krista, which it's not. She is 3. She loves shrimp. And Jess is like, none of this is correct. Like none of this is right.
I love those so much.
So sweet. And that's cute that they're so helpful.
And I think it's good. They see me that I don't think it's one thing. I actually was going to make a reel for Mother's Day because my mom has passed away and I didn't get around to it because I didn't have enough time. But I used to literally think my mom was insane.
Same. And now every day I'm like, you were right.
And I'm like, I just look up at the sky. I'm like, I'm so sorry because I just see she was a single mom and she was there for us and she never, she always handled everything, but she was like frazzled a lot. She was a teacher. She didn't have like this disposable income. There's so many times that I just like laugh and I'm like, oh, I thought she was nuts. And then I'm thinking, I feel that same way. Like, so many times, like, I just feel like, how am I going to make it? How am I going to get my kids to college? And you do, and you figure it out. But there's so many amends that I like want to make to my mom. Cause I'm like, oh, you weren't crazy at all. You were just like, you're me. I'm you.
We do.
Yeah. So
I think that's where everyone is. And I feel like all of your messaging and like everything you post, even on social, is like, you're doing your best. If you can help along the way, you've been immensely helpful to us. But that's the main thing too. I also always tell moms, it's like, you're doing the best and you know your child. You know your child best. You can't parent anyone else's kid because they're not yours. No one else can parent mine. Like trust you and lean into
I think that's a big part too, that we lose that internal instinct of like knowing what to do.
Yeah.
That I hope to like, help. Like, so I have a mom, sometimes they'll be like, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, well, because we really try to like allow parents to have their own journey, through these things and then support them the best that we can based on like what they want to do and on what we know. Like I'm very gentle and very mindful of that. But I think it's so important for parents to kind of like tap into that instinct and not worry about the people pleasing or what so-and-so is doing. And like, honestly, like my kids, they definitely do not brush their teeth twice a day. I'm just gonna throw that out there. That's a no. They're like, sometimes if I'm about to miss bedtime, I'm like, screw it. I'm just not doing it. Cause it's a lot like to brush 3 kids' teeth and the thing. And did everyone go to the bathroom? And there's a shower.
Pick and choose. You pick and choose your battles.
You do. And I think it's so important to like own that. Like sometimes if they want, it's like, here's some chocolate for breakfast. I don't care. It's not every day. And I teach them teach them about health and all the things, but sometimes it's like, that's what I need to get out the door.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill them to have a little chocolate for breakfast.
So important though with just showing up in general. Cause so many people are like behind the scenes have 10 nannies and a chef and a housekeeper and they're acting like they have their life together. And it's like, well, no, you don't. You're like doing the highlight reel thing. It's so important. I feel like.
And even when you have help, like I have great help. I mean, I don't have anyone here full time, but at the same time, it's a grind and it's so important, I think, to like own that stuff, relate to other parents. Like it's okay. Like, and everyone has those days that are where they're like, oh, I just can't do it one more second.
Yeah, I get that. Well, I love that whole tangent about motherhood. That was fun.
I love it.
For full feedings, where can people find you? Either social, website, and subscriptions and all that stuff. And I'll tag everything in the show notes as well.
Yeah, perfect. So on Instagram at Full Feedings, I give tons of I probably give way too much free information. People are like, oh, I got my child sleeping on your Instagram. I'm like, okay, it's only $9. But whatever, we love it. And so at Full Feedings on Instagram, I am at Full Feedings on TikTok, but I don't understand TikTok. So I don't really do it. I'm a little too old.
It's so hard.
Fullfeedings.com for my website. Fullfeedings.com/online-programs is where you can find my online programs, infant, toddler, and then I have combination ones that are both. Yeah. And then if you have any questions, hellosleep@fullfeedings.com. It's a great way to reach us. And I'm still very much in email support. I am still here. I have an amazing team. Honestly, I can't thank them enough. Kelly, Sarah, and Vicky, and Kevin too, who does my web stuff. He doesn't want to be on the girl team, but he is. I'm like,
Kevin,
come on, Kevin, come on. Kevin's single. We need to get tape.
Oh, should we now transport this into a matchmaking episode for Kevin?
So I have an amazing, awesome team. So grateful for them. And we're in there helping parents every day.
You helped us immensely. So I'm definitely a full supporter of you, Anne. And I so appreciate you taking time out of your busy day just to chat with us and help parents, because we all need it. We all need a little help sometimes. So visit Anne. And if you have any questions, you can either reach out to Anne, or I'm happy to answer anything on my experience as well. But Anne, thank you again. And so glad you're in my town. Thank you for tuning in to the Welcome to My 10 podcast. I hope you had as much fun listening as I do recording. I am so happy to have you here, and see you next episode.